Great Wednesday. Welcome to the Fully Human Trinity Podcast. I'm your host, King, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jess. How you doing today, Jess?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Doing absolutely phenomenal, actually. So, as we like to get things started in our typical world, what's your spiritual energy number?
I'm a 10.
You're a 10? And
Yeah.
I join you, I'm a 10 as well. So, for our listeners who may be new to us, and this has been our initial podcast, we ask for some grace, is the reason we ask what's your spiritual energy number. We're speaking of it in the context of right now, in this moment, not entirely. And we mean by spiritual energy number, we mean the number of where you are connected as a person, as a soul, and where you see yourself as far as within the state of gratitude. Now, we use a numerical number from 0 being life sucks to 10 being life is awesome. So Jess and I both are saying we're 10, so we're saying life is awesome. Now, I want to take us to our next step, which is why we're 10. And that's our list of gratitude. So every morning I wake up, and as Jess does as well, we go through a list of gratitude. Because gratitude, what I realize, is a state. It's not a feeling. It doesn't come and go. It's a state you live at. And to live at that state, you have to, I suggest, create a list of what you're grateful for. And I share my list, and Jess, I'd like you to share your list as well.
Okay.
So my list is I'm grateful for my life, my ability to see, hear, walk, talk, stand, breathe, and have sound mind. I'm grateful for another 24 hours to pursue my purpose in life. I'm grateful for my problems, because through those problems, I see opportunities for me to grow. I'm grateful for the people who uplift me. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head, food to eat, and the infinite possibilities that this day is going to provide. Jess, what's your gratitude list?
I am grateful for today, for my life, for my breath, for my opportunity, and my privilege to move forward with grace. I am grateful for my mother, for my birth mother, the source of this body and this lifetime. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to sit with her today, to be in her space. And I give all my thanks and gratitude for the mother today, making this podcast possible to be with you, King.
Absolutely. Same here. And I'm now gratitude for sharing that list. And the reason we do that, because what we found out, we don't just say the 10 arbitrarily. We say the number 10 because once you go through your list of gratitude, how can you not be a 10? And that's really the reason why we do this. It's a check-in. It's a way of also making sure that if both of us are vibrating at a 10 and we both are living in a state of gratitude, then we're going to bring a lot of energy to the show. And we welcome you all to the first inaugural program of the Fully Human Trinity Podcast.
Woo!
So now, one of the key things we want to get started with is, what does it mean to be fully human? Right? And Jess, I'll let you take that one first if you want to share what your thoughts of what it means to be fully human as you've been building in your life.
Yeah, to be fully human to me has been to shed the identities that were placed on me when I was growing up. You know, there was a lot of external information or reflection from other people that tell me how I am for them, how they relate to me. And I took that information in and I personalized it, as many of us do. And becoming fully human has been to unlock myself or unburden myself from any external label or construct, and really allow me to just be in my truth and the essence of who I am. And in doing that, I can see the same opportunity for others in front of me, that I don't need to see them as their conditions or their beliefs or what they came from or their trauma, that I can see them as full human potential, fully human.
Excellent. Excellent. Now I'm going to share my screen here and share with everyone what we consider to be the 4 agreements for being fully human. Because being fully human is really about, as Jess laid out, But in a simpler way, for everyone who's interested in being a part of what we're building a movement of individuals who see themselves as fully human, whose identity is fully human. But we agree these 4 agreements. Number 1, that energy is everything and everything is energy. Now, Einstein said this. This is a quote from Einstein. So this is not something we're just making up randomly. If you believe that energy is everything, that's the first step. The second step is energy is constantly in motion. It's either in a state of increase or decrease. Increase or decrease. It's never in a state of stagnant. So with that being said, we focus, number 3, on the increase. As being fully humans, we want to constantly bring increase. Now, again, being fully human means that we want to always be an increase in each other's lives, but we focus there. That's our intent. That's our true north. And then finally, number 4, our identity is fully human. And what do we mean by that? Just outlaid that in the context. We don't identify by our race, our religion, our sexual orientation, our ethnicity, our country, our any of the divisions that the construct has given us and told us that this is who you are. Those things are just divisive elements. Now, again, they are parts of who you are, but that's not how you should see the world through those lenses. Because again, like I said, once you really understand energy is everything and everything is energy, and from a quantum entanglement perspective, then there is no race, folks. It's not something I'm making up as a post-racial mentality. It's just not physically possible for it to be a race. And then we want to take a step further. Race was created, the first instance of race being used in the English United States writing started in 1675 with the Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon was a minister who led poor blacks, enslaved blacks, and poor whites against the system, against justice at that time. And they were successful. They were able to burn down Civic Hall as a result of their riot and their collective efforts. And so the construct responded by realizing that we got to stop that. We got to forever divide poor whites and blacks and get them to see each other as different, as being separate from one another. So instead of just having African and Irish immigrants and indigenous people, we got to create these labels and these categories. And then everybody is told through their cultural givens, as my friend Reggie coined, the terminology that you are your gender, or you are your race, or you are these things when you're born, separating you from everyone else. See, if I was to come in this conversation and see myself as a black man, identify by that, then I have to see Jess as a white woman. Then we got to dance around what the construct and our collective experiences now tells us about what a white woman means, and she's looking at me as what a black man means. Then I got to try to worry about, is she racist? All right. Then she's got to worry about, who am I a thug, or whatever the image she may have of a black person in her mind that she's been conditioned with, if we come into our colors as our identity. But we come in as fully human. We see each other as energy sources. We see each other as fully human, and then that allows us now to connect and build on a deeper level. So anything you want to share in there, Jess? Any thoughts?
Well, I'm just in the deep separation of mental health today. Mm-hmm. I'm just seeing like a whole other construct that I've had, a whole other label that I've had, because my mother and I were separated just shortly after I was born. And so I grew up with this construct of, like, when my friends would ask, where's your mom, or why don't you have a mom? I would say my mom is mentally ill. And even more than that, I would put another label on it with her diagnosis. And I'm just noticing that today, of like, we actually have broken through that construct, because no longer is that our limitation or what's keeping us separate. And I think that mental health is such an invisible construct that is hard to define, when somebody's cray, or there's other mental health issues that like differentiate them, or they're a little off, or they're weird, or, and it's just like this automatic separation of like, I'm not like them. And there's like a dehumanization that happens in that moment. So I just want to bring mental health into that whole construct.
Absolutely. And I think mental health is an important part to bring into into this conversation, because that's what most people who are suffering from the identity of race that is being in the mental construct of having mental illness in the context. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, when I tell folks I'm fully human and they get in, the first thing people challenge me with is, well, isn't that kind of not been honoring of your race, of your history, of your legacy, of the people who come before you, your ancestors? And I say, no, I'm able to honor all of my ancestors now, not just my Black ancestors, but also my Jewish ancestors or any other ancestor that I want to honor, as you see behind me on my picture, from Viktor Frankl to Che Guevara to Napoleon Hill to John Brown. Because when you become fully human, everybody becomes your ancestor. You're not just locked into ancestors that fit your skin suit. And that's all this really is a skin suit, folks. There is really nothing that separates us other than our minds that see us. Now, some people come to me and say, well, what about all the things that they feel white people have done in the name of white supremacy? And that gets brought up. I get that. And that pain is real. And that's why I want to talk about the mental illness portion of this, because that pain is real. And I'm not saying those things did not happen. I'm not saying that people don't, outside of us, see themselves purely in their race or in their country or in their ethnicity or in their sexual orientation or whatever divisive label they want to use. And as people go out here and commit murder and do evil things based off that, that part is true. But what I'm saying is, instead of blaming the entire race for that individual's actions, it's like looking at if you have someone in your family who has dementia, if you had the misunfortunate chance of having that, and that person in your family has dementia, and if it may be a parent, and that parent grabs a gun. That's a scene in this movie or a series that Jess told me about called The Big C. And there's a scene in The Big C where there's an elderly woman across the street from the main character, and this elderly woman gets welcomed into the family as an extended family. And the woman's son, the main character's son, would go spend time at the elderly woman's house. But the elderly woman, unbeknownst to everyone, has dementia. And then one day, the dementia kicks in and she grabs her gun because she doesn't recognize the woman's son during that bout where she has dementia. And she threatens to kill him because to her, in her mind, she has mental illness and he's a threat, someone in her house. And so instead of blaming a woman for that because she has mental illness, grace is given to that. I'm saying the same thing about folks who've done things in the past. Because if you don't forgive that and move on from that and look at ways to get better, we can always argue about who had more trauma in their race, right? That's an endless conversation to say, well, no, we had over 6 Jewish individuals, say we had 6 million people die. And we can look at the slave trade, say we had 600 million people die in the slave trade, right? And my saying is, as Viktor Frankl teaches us, there is no trauma greater than another trauma. Trauma is trauma. And once you really understand that and you truly understand that we're energy, then you stop seeing each other as enemies and you look at ways that we can start being creative and start working together. And that's the mental energy that we all got to really begin to build from, is stop seeing each other as different. Because when you talk to individuals, and that's when Jess and I met at Mountains of Hope, which is in Colombia. And I would share this, and I've shared this with Jess before. I went to Mountains of Hope. Mountains of Hope is a wellness retreat in the Andes Mountains of Colombia. And it's about maybe 13 people that were there with me at that time. And we had dinner, we had breakfast, and we had lunch every single day with each other. And when I initially was going there, I was going there in the context that I didn't want to have lunch, dinner, and breakfast every day over 7 days with these individuals who I didn't know. But I did. I leaned in fully. And I came out healed and changed. But I can tell you this, and I've been in many situations in my life by believing that and seeing myself as Black first and as a Black man second, and doubling down on that and seeing that as my identity and building a movement in that space, right? That I've been in so many rooms, because my background is IT and systems, where I was the only Black person in that room. And one thing this country will do for you is make sure that you know what category you're supposed to be in every single day. If you allow yourself to listen to that news media, cycles, they're telling you every single day you're Black, you're a woman, you're an immigrant, you're American, you're left, you're right. All these things they're constantly telling you and dividing you up with. And as many times I've been the only Black person, if I allow myself to identify in that skin suit in those rooms. When I went to Colombia, I may have been the only Black person in a skin suit, but for the first time in my life, I never felt that. And then they never made me feel that I was an outsider or that I was Black and I was different. And they needed to feel sorry for me or welcome me in as a diversity, equity, and inclusion type of environment. None of the energy was ever experienced. We never talked about race because we talked about healing. Each person was over there battling their own journey, whether it was cancer or it was some other kind of illness or it was trauma from our past, and we need to heal our souls. Everyone was there on that journey, and that was our common bond. That's where we had our alignment of love. That changed me. That's what I realized. It's not about race, folks. It's about energy. It's about alignment. Because I've had people of my same skin suit do me terrible, do me wrong. And I had people who have a lighter skin suit help change my life at key transitional points of my life. They were integral in helping me out and helping me grow in my career. So I just wanted to add that part to it, and kind of really get that at the beginning of our show, so folks may be battling that question.
Yes, and thank you for presencing Mountains of Hope in Colombia, because it was a profound shift in our energy for both of us. And I can see just from you sharing that part of the story what it's like to come to a table that is resonating with love, because nobody there wanted to be identified by their trauma or their cancer or their mental illness, or their skin color. We were actually connecting through love and through love energy of like what is actually going to heal us. And we were very clear that it was love and opening to source. And that type of connection is far distinct from connecting with connecting through the issues.
Absolutely. And to that, and here's something else that I experienced. Jess and I both are on a 180-day journey. And something I came up with because I realized that I truly wanted to continue to grow. I said I had come through a storm, and I referenced a storm being something you go through in your life that is uncomfortable, that's painful, that there's tons of uncertainty. It could be a financial storm, it could be a health storm, it could be a relationship storm, but it's something that hits you so hard, as people say when it comes to drugs and alcohol, hitting rock bottom. It's hitting that rock bottom emotionally, where you have no choice. You're forced with the choice of, I either have to change or I die, right? Viktor Frankl, again, has a quote that says, when you no longer can change the situation, then you're forced that the situation is changing you, right? And that's the moment when I'm talking about a storm. And I've gone through my storm. And right, that's our commonality, right? And most people at Mountains of Hope had gone through their storms, or some way maybe still in that storm. And that's what the alignment there. We saw each other, two human beings that was on a journey that was also in need of healing, and we all were there to help each other heal, right? I found out later that someone there was a MAGA believer. I didn't feel the energy from her the entire time I was there. So that shows you that when you're in an environment when people can let go of their skin suit and these other divisions that's created by the construct, the creative liberation that happens as a result is unbelievable. And that's where that put me on a journey to say, I want to put myself on a journey for 6 months, 180 days of how do I raise my vibrational frequency so I can change, become a better person. For me, I needed that. Because my storm impacted so many people financially, and it really destroyed my identity. It helped me rethink who I was as an individual, because what hurt me the most, it is I had let so many people down who had believed in me. That's what hurt me the most. And so when you're at that space, when you're beating yourself up, because my intention was not to be manipulative. My intention was not to trick people out of their money or run a scheme or fraud. It wasn't any of those things. It was truly about building people up and building up a city and giving love. And COVID hit and other things hit, but I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. Didn't know that, but I wasn't. And going through that storm helped me become open to go to mountains of hope and receive the true healing that was there. And I was no longer in my head telling myself that I know what's better. And finally, I want to conclude my point by saying this. And Jess has heard me say this several times, and folks who've heard some of my frequency signals that I create. I look at myself as being the fourth quarter of my life, using a football analogy. Quarters, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and now this fourth quarter. And then being in the fourth quarter at 56 years of age, I no longer want to continue living my way that I've lived the previous 3 quarters. I say I want to lean into love in this last quarter of my life. And however long that may be in this quarter, I'm not giving a date to end the quarter. I'm saying that I realize that I'm in a consciousness shift and a physical shift and an emotional shift, and I want to live it differently. And in living it differently, I allow myself to say I want to focus on the energy of love. The 180-day journey that I put myself on was, how do I stop living within a racial construct of seeing myself as Black and others as external, different from me, and focus on the internal? What can I do to grow better as a person? And how can I love and raise my vibrational energy to a higher level through love? And that's what the 180-day journey is about. And Jess is on that with me as well. And I want to give you a chance to talk about what your experience was. It's on that as well, Jess. Before I conclude on this point, that it is through this journey of leaning into trusting the universe, having faith and exercising faith, not just talking about faith performatively, but really using and realize that faith is a muscle. And if you don't exercise it, like any other muscle, it atrophies. And when you exercise it and you don't have all the answers, but you believe that you will, and you know that you do the right things and you give love, love will come back. I've experienced it.
Yes, it does. And King, I've witnessed this love energy shift in you since the time we met in Colombia until now, and working with you and continuing to regenerate our love energy together it's been profound. So thank you for bringing me on to the 180-day journey with you.
Well, thank you for joining me, because this has us being on this journey has strengthened our bond, right? We were already in, and see, that's something else I want to talk about. It's a difference between being in common, having things in common, and having things in alignment, right? And in common is obviously, I can have, like, my neighbor in Baltimore. My neighbor is more likely and was a Black man or a Black couple in their 50s or after 40. And we have the same musical interests, more than likely. We both are going to like the same football team, typically like the same type of food, right? Those things we have in common. But as I learned painfully through the storm, you can't build or co-create just because you have shared trauma in common.
That's right.
You have to build and co-create based off alignment. And alignment is something that's deeply interior, personal, your governing principles, how you see yourself. Like Jess and I both are saying that we see ourselves as fully human. That's alignment. That's where, as you look at our fully human graphic here, that's the peak of this triangle that we're saying, the Trinity, is that our alignment is there because we want to create love and build love energy together. Not romantic love that the contract teaches us, but love energy that's there, that Ralph Emerson referred to as a synonym for God. Love is a synonym for God. And so as you look at the Bible, Corinthians 13 talks about, again, what love is. And so once you understand that and take away from the romantic lust aspect, love is the energy. And she and I are in common or in alignment about vibrating at the energy through to help someone else. And that's our commonality.
Yeah. And that's what we've been doing. I can say that going to Colombia was my initiation to put myself first, to put myself in an environment where I could really receive healing, like deep healing. And that meant like taking myself really out of the construct of what I was used to being in. And then at the start of the new year, noticing how my storm just kept coming around. I keep getting another layer of my storm, another cycle of my storm. And it took me deep into grief. And that was another storm opportunity where I got to choose myself again. And that's where I started understanding like, oh, the love energy. If the love energy is coming first, and I'm not coming from a place of lack or like I need to fix myself, but really like I just need to keep pouring love into myself, opening myself up to more love. That's where I got some real deep healing in Colombia. And then from there, you and I started working together where I put myself in an opportunity to move to New York for a moment and be with Rachel, which is where Goddess Tears really has come into this love energy. And so I'd like to share more about that.
Absolutely. But before you do, because we're definitely going to talk about Goddess Tears and get into that. That's something else where we have alignment. I want you to talk a little bit about what brought you to Mountains of Hope in the first place. If you wouldn't mind being out, bring that up. I think that's important for folks to understand.
Yeah, it's a little mystical and it has a lot of serendipity in it. So I'll just give that fair warning. I was listening to the universe, first of all, in my morning manifestations, in my gratitude journal. I'm asking Source, like, how can I better be of service? How can I serve more people from an open heart? How can my love energy provide not only for myself, but for others? And so hearing things in my world is what started happening, where I was hearing them on stereo. So I had a group of friends who were going to Medellin, Colombia, and they invited me. And then I had another friend from New York who also said she was going to Medellin, and they were like the same day, within the same 24 hours. And this is when I'm asking the universe, like, where do I go? How do I serve? So I looked into Medellin, and on the way there, a friend gave me a book called The Cancer Cure or something like that. And it was about frequency medicine, where you're tuning into an idea or an end result, I guess, a goal of something manifested. And then you're holding on to an energy or an emotion at the same time. And that is the medicine of what they've now found can heal cancer in mice. And now they're taking these studies into the world. And what I found fascinating was that it was written by a skeptic and it was data driven. And I was like, okay, this is my stuff, because I don't think I believe in this either. And then when I got to Mountains of Hope, I stood in the front entryway and I saw a book that Mike Murphy had written called Creation Frequency. And we had a wonderful conversation about what he's doing there and what I've been doing in the death realm. And we had alignment there, but I wasn't quite sure how we'd be working together. And then when I picked up the Creation Frequency and I read it on the way home, and it was the same technology as in the Cancer Cure. And that was another one of those serendipitous moments where I was like, that's what we're doing. We're doing frequency medicine. And it's really like, I don't know what that looks like, but I know that is where my soul is calling me to focus.
And now, what have you gone through in your life, either teaching, experience? Because you come from a very open context. You have a growth mindset. So you don't come in with, I already know everything and I'm clear. You come in with, I'm willing to learn. So what keeps your mind in that space of being open-minded?
Well, that's interesting because, yeah, what I explained in my early childhood experience where my father had taken me from my birth mother, he gave me an experience of like rigid thinking and knowing. Like you had to know something and then you had to prove it. And you needed to prove it mathematically and scientifically. And so that was my conditioning. I had a brother and a single father. And there was a lot of control in that. In like I needed to get with the construct or I would die. Right. So there was a lot of like me seeking the knowing and who knows the most. But then there's this other half of me, my mother side, who is the crazy one. And so it created a divide in me where I'm seeking, and then I'm not going to look at this whole other side of me that thinks a little bit differently. That's what had me open my mind. Mm-hmm. And it was in 2022 when I went through the death portal of my adoptive mother passing that I started listening to my birth mother. And what I uncovered was a whole bunch of truth that was actually my family lineage truth that wasn't the truth of my father. And then I started to understand like, oh, there's no one truth. And that's where my construct completely broke open, where there's not the church, the God, all of it just kind of crumbled for me. And I was like, oh, we are each our own divine truth, our own aspect of divinity. And now I have full freedom to understand that your truth is your truth. My dad's truth was his truth. My grandmother's truth was her truth. And like, we can honor all the truths because it's the collective. And the more diverse that we can see all of these truths, the more, 380 perspective I guess 360, 360 degree perspective to be able to understand where I am in the universe and where I am to operate. And where's my true alignment?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we're going to get ready to take our break, our musical break. And our podcast is going to have musical breaks because it's important that we send out frequency signals and that you feel us. And we hope you enjoy it. But before we do, I wanted to add this last element because our next section, we're going to come back and talk about the law of service and what she and I are building together there. And that's something powerful. But I want to share this with you all as thoughts. Again, for those who still may be wrestling, I know many of you are. You're not going to just feel instantly, I want to become fully human based on what we shared thus far. But I do want to ask you a question. And I want you to think about this for a moment, individuals who will listen to our podcast. If I were to ask you to introduce yourself, tell me about yourself. And in that 30-second intro that you're going to share with me, if you identify by your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your country, your religion, your ethnicity, your political affiliation, any of those things like that in that 30-second intro, then this is what I'm saying. You have a 50% energy drainage on who you are as a result of that. That's draining you because you got to constantly defend that category that is made up. It does not exist. You go to other countries, a person in our country considered to be mixed is considered a different name. And a person the same color in India, same color is not considered black. So there is no logic to it at all. It just changes based off who has an agenda and the construct's interests. So with that being said, I'm going to get ready to upload our musical selection right now. And then we'll get back on the other side and really get into how we are turning this unity, this co-creation that we're building into something that's even more powerful than all of us. And hopefully you all want to be a part of it.
It's not music. Gratitude for feeling this. I'm the architect of the frequency. The AI is the instrument. This is my frequency signal, King. If you ever think about me, and you ain't gonna do no revolutionary act, forget about me. I don't want myself on your mind if you're not going to work for the people. Fred Hampton. I need to tell you a truth that feels like a betrayal. But the betrayal isn't mine. The betrayal happened in 1675. The betrayal was ink on paper that turned your soul into a category. Stop breathing the smoke, look at the fire. Check the ledger, check the law. The architect is here to find the flaw. Race is a lie. A ghost in the machine, a veil over the eye. Race is a lie. A script for the managed, a reason to die. It's the dementia, the spirit, it's the glitch in the code. It's the heavy, heavy baggage on a sovereign road. Dissolve the construct, right? Yeah, yeah. It started as a lie, a whisper in the dark, designed to keep the brothers from finding the spark. Before 1676, there was no white in the law, just Englishmen, Irishmen, Africans, and the indigenous they saw in 1676. They burned Jamestown together, black servants and white servants, same chain, same tether. The plan of class shook, they saw a unified force, so they drafted a category to change the course. A lawyer with a pen and a colonial decree manufactured a race to destroy that unity. An administrative category designed to divide, give the poor white man a bad strip, the black man's pride, so the construct could manage where the human ends. And the lie begins. It wasn't for a reason, it was for a season. But you turned a season of control into your reason. You tied your sovereign frequency to a label made of dust and called it identity when it was engineered distrust. They tethered your children to the frequency of fear. 350 years and the tether's still here. You wear the skin suit like a heavy winter coat while you're trying to cross the water. It's the stone in the boat. Race is a lie, a ghost in the machine, a veil over the eye. Race is a lie, a script for the managed, a reason to die. It's the dementia, the spirit, it's the glitch in the code. It's the heavy, heavy baggage on a sovereign road. Dissolve the construct, right? Yeah. You accept it with pride. You wear it like a crown, but it's just a velvet rope that's holding you down. All the trauma you cherish, all the pain that you keep, it's the harvest of a lie that was planted while you sleep. You lead with your wounds and you call it your story, but you're decorating the prison and calling it glory. The construct named you, the construct framed you. If you're defined by the hate they projected on you, then the construct is the one who is telling the truth. I know what you're asking, I hear it every time. How do I release race when the violence is still mine? The father has dementia, the hand has the gun. The bullet was real, the blood was real. What was done was done. The violence is not a lie. That part I will never erase. But you're hating the instrument and calling it race. The dementia is the construct. The father is a soul whose sovereign operating system was no longer whole. It didn't pull that trigger from his fully human place. The construct had the wheel, the construct ran the race. So stop fighting your father and dismantle the disease. If a lawyer wrote the code, the architect holds the keys. What was manufactured can be dismantled. What was invented can be canceled. You are not a category in the dead man's file. You are a quantum being operating in the sovereign style. Delete the category, delete the name. Stop playing the construct's game. Race is a lie, a ghost in the machine, a veil over the eye. Race is a lie, script for the managed, a reason to die. Listen to me clearly. If it has a start date, it has an expiration date. 1675 was the start. 2026, this is the expiration. The pain was real. The violence was real. The blood was real. But the category, that was a management tool for a frightened ruling class. Stop being a well-managed category. Start being a fully human being. This is what it means to be fully human. Ancestors, I'm broadcasting my signal. Ancestors, M-E-O-P, Orukori. We call your names. M-E-O-P, Orukori. We call your names. We call your names. Are you picking up?
Woohoo!
And we're back.
And we're
And
back.
we continue our second half of our show. And did you enjoy that?
I really enjoyed
I saw
that.
you feeling it. I feel it as well. You know, that's the beauty of when you have alignment and you have creative liberation. That's where I was going with when I talked about the 180-day journey, is that for years I've been planting seeds in my mind of being a musician, making mixtapes. Just music was a big part of who I was, my life, my appreciation. And now, because I've been dissolving the paradigm of the construct, I've achieved 50% of my creativity back. That creative liberation now has me creating what I call frequency signals. I don't call it music because I don't want to insult musicians out there who've been studying lifetime of a particular instrument. But with AI now, it allows you to have creative liberation. And I'm able to produce these frequency signals that helped not only connect me to somebody who I had never met personally online, but build a true resonance with them that we were able to meet because she felt my music. But more importantly, and this is the exit segue into our next conversation, is, you know, I created a song called God is Tears. And God is Tears is for Rachel. And you mentioned Rachel briefly. And Rachel was somebody you and I met in Colombia. We talked about, we saw there was alignment with us. We both saw that there was a kindred spirit between us. And we were thinking about how can we work together? What can we do to really begin to bring a united effort and unity? And you said, well, I think a great place to start would be, I have a friend named Rachel. And so now with that being said, why don't you tell us who Rachel is?
Yeah. Rachel is a good friend of mine now, but I just barely knew her when she left for Colombia. And we were doing a bunch of manifestation. We were dream weaving together, like really culminating our dreams and wishes inside of a collective community of humans who were aligned. And she barely mentioned her suffering or the storm that she was going through. And it wasn't until she was leaving for Colombia that she said, we just did like a charity event and I raised enough money to go to Mountains of Hope. And I'm going to be arriving in a wheelchair and I can barely walk. And I'm like 120 pounds, like withering away. And so it was kind of this like, whoa, she's really going through something. And leaning in and just giving her a space every week to just have a space is what I did for the last year. I've been creating just a friendship and a bond. And so more recently, I went and stayed with her and I got deeper into her story, which after Mountains of Hope, she left out of the wheelchair. She was water skiing. She had a whole other year of vivacious living before it kind of came back in this new iteration where I went to go visit with her and go a lot deeper into her story. And that's where I learned, like, she's been on this journey for a while And when she was originally going to have surgery, she couldn't find a surgeon that would operate on her. And she went to Croatia. And in Croatia, she went through a healing journey where she created a legacy project. And that's one thing that I've been wanting for myself and wanting for other people as they're going through stages of change in their life, or maybe even the final stage of their life and the ultimate change, is like leaving our imprint, leaving our frequency of like, we were here, we lived on this earth, and we left this mark. It's a really important stage of living. And what she was creating was Goddess Tears, or what had been created was Goddess Tears. And I was just so enveloped in love by it, because it is, instead of Rachel saying, I want to be served, or I want help right now, or I need you, she was coming from a place of, I want to offer, I want to give, I want to leave my legacy for Mother Earth, for my children, for my family. And that had me shift everything of like, well, if you can do that while you're going through the storm, well, certainly while I'm going through my storm, I can do the same thing and shift my energy toward Goddess Tears as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, that's what I want to speak about, because what's so powerful with that, and I've seen this manifest in my life, and this is what my goal was when I said I put myself on a 180-day journey, was to raise my vibration higher. And I felt that I could only do that through acts of service, through love energy. That's the only way that's actually going to be possible. It can't just be possible because I want it to happen. Everybody wants to raise their vibration, but are you willing to put forth the work to actually make your vibration raise? And that's where, when you and I begin to talk about it, it gave me an opportunity, because I was telling myself in the universe that this is something I want to do. And the universe said, okay, well, if you want to do that, then here's an opportunity for you to do that. You know, are you going to stand up to the opportunity? Or are you going to do what I call bonded kindness? They say, well, yeah, I want to help somebody, but I want to help somebody the same skin suit I am, or the same city I'm in, or the same gender I'm in, you know, or where I can find whatever wiggle way to not support what you're doing and come up with excuses. But no, I leaned into it and said, I felt your energy, I felt your sincerity, and I said I wanted to match you. And you and I created a campaign. But before I get into the campaign, I'm going to show this, because I keep talking about energy, and I want to share, folks, where I get this terminology from. And this is what's considered to be a map of consciousness. And this was created by a gentleman by the name of Dr. David Hawkins. He's wrote several other books like Power versus Force. And he also talked about the map of consciousness from that. And what he did was he created a mathematical scaling for how you measure thought, and based on vibration. Again, we're all energy. The energy is everything. We talked about before with Einstein. But then our thoughts are also energy as well. And based on where our thoughts are, that determines basically the reality that we see. That's what I believe. And hopefully through this course or through this podcast, you're going to learn why we believe that and how it can benefit you. You believe that as well. So just quickly, what I want to share is, so most people are sitting around at pride, which is 175 hertz, which is right above anger, and you see desire. So you see, these are all, everything in force here is low vibrational thoughts. And that's what most people are. So you have scorn, demanding, and you're indifferent, and destruction is weak. But then you get the courage. And then some people move the courage through their actions, through their endeavors, through what they're reading. Maybe your religious dogma has gotten you to courage level, and then neutrality, and then willingness. But most people never get past acceptance, which is 350 hertz. And again, hertz being a measurement of energy. My goal, I felt that I was at reason, and I can get more into why I felt I was at reason, but I wanted to get to love energy, which is 500 hertz here. And I felt that for me to get there, I had to raise my vibration. So I said, I'm going to spend 180 days focused on raising my vibration up to love energy, because I believe if I get to love energy, then I can co-create with others at that same vibration. And to me, that's where miracles happen. That's where we can change the world. And for me to do that and live that life, that was going to be much more meaningful for me than anything I had ever experienced. So that's why I joined the 100, or I started the 180-day journey for that reason.
Yeah. Can I just bring this full circle really quick?
Absolutely.
Because you asked me what took me to Mountains of Hope. And I talked a little bit about this like serendipitous moment between the creation frequency and this other healing modality. And what I'm understanding is when we all stepped into Mountains of Hope, we did the most significant part, which Rachel will point to, was the coherent healing ceremony. And the coherent healing ceremony is to be at the love frequency. And so we stand in a circle, and all of us have had that experience, those of us who have been to Mountains of Hope and sat in that ceremony, and we've witnessed the miracles. We've witnessed the healing. And so it's like, right in this moment, I'm like, oh, it's no coincidence then that love energy would continue to hold this bond of attracting us in this triad with Rachel.
Absolutely.
And all of those who have done that coherent healing together, that's like, we really have nurtured and held those relations, which then tells me it's not us doing it. It's source, it's love frequency that is so strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, I'm a person who believes that, we can emerge as human beings, that we don't have to be at the same level. And I'm sorry, let me bring this back up here again real quick. Now, another map of consciousness that I saw, it talked about who these people were that were kind of vibrating in alignment and peace. And they used reference like Jesus and Allah and Buddha are the ones vibrating at that higher level. And see, one of the common things is you can study whatever religious dogma you study, everyone who raised their vibration had to go through a period of solitude, where they just took themselves away from at that time, the construct or a society, and just did a deep introspective analysis of who they were and focus on the inside and just really get a chance to learn that. Like if you read the Bible, the Christian Bible, Jesus is, I believe he was born 7-8 years old and he disappears. And you don't hear from him again until he's 33 years old. What was he doing through that time frame, right? Other than raising his consciousness, getting to the point where he can come and be fully who he was. If you're a Christian and you believe in that. So now my goal was, I believe Christ was put in our lives for us not to not to worship, but to follow, to become like, that we can do similar things in our human form if we raise our vibrations up higher enough. And the best way to raise our vibrations up higher enough is to the law of service. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. And that's where you and I both are really leaning into this, because as we get away from the performative conversation of helping somebody to really doing the work. And that's a whole different level of energy and actions that's associated with that. And I'm going to share my screen again and share two elements that I think are important to what we're building as we get into the top of the hour. And number one, it's going to be clearly getting to the point of who Rachel is and why it's important that we support Rachel. So I'm going to ask you all to give me some grace while I load this up.
Yep.
This is going to be the campaign that we're building for Rachel and why this is important. Because see, Rachel is somebody for me, and each of us have our reasons why we're supporting her, beyond just the fact that we want to do law of service. But as I got to know Rachel through you and through these conversations, I realized that Rachel is not only a very kind person, a very loving person, but she's something that gives me strength and insight because of how she is actually literally building the storm or fighting through the storm and still has interest in helping others through that process. And that to me is what's powerful behind it.
Yes.
Because that's not something that most people are doing when they're dealing with that kind of disease that she's dealing with, that kind of health crisis that she's going through. And that's what makes Rachel special to me. It's because for her to still have the presence and awareness and the love to say, yeah, I'm going through my pain. And it's not only causing me physical pain, emotional pain, it's causing me spiritual pain, financial stress, all that, that comes along with a health crisis. But my question I'm looking for that she had was, how do I help somebody else?
Yep.
And for me, that was like the universal mile markers that I look at, and I say to myself, if she can do that, if she can be in that space, how can I also stay in that space?
Yes.
Right.
Too. It's such an inspiration. She's such an inspiration. I mean, we identified her as a deserving soul because she wants to give, and it's challenging to receive, right? And so as we identified her as a deserving soul, she was like, I can't wait till the next deserving soul comes along so that person can receive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what's so powerful about what we're building, is that we have someone who is not just talking that. Because see, a lot of people, and this is, a big distinction I want to point out between need and deserving. There's a lot of people out here in the world who need help, right? But to me, only very few people out there deserve help. And to your point, what makes Rachel, in my opinion, deserve help is that we just talked about it, is that through her pain, and we will give everybody in her situation grace. We do that. But she's still thinking about how she can be more of love energy and stay at the vibrational frequency of love to help others. And she has every reason to want to not do that. And she's creating a nonprofit called God is Tears that helps others in that same situation that she's in. And she's committed to building that as her legacy in her life. That to me is compelling. That's something I want to be a part of. How many people, and I ask the folks who's listening to our podcast, how many of you all have an opportunity in your daily lives to impact and bring that kind of creative, what I call 10x energy in your life, in others' lives, in the moment that way? This is not just a nice gesture, like opening the door up for somebody. And that's kind. I mean, that's nice. Let me make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying, kind should have an impact. People should feel changed from it as a result of kind. And that's what Rachel wants to do. That's what Rachel wants to manifest. And you and I are both committed to helping her do that.
Yeah. And, I just have to say, it like flips the construct. It flips the whole construct upside down when we go from like needing and taking and draining the system, draining humanity, and flipping that and saying, I do need support. And as I receive support, I'm going to keep giving and giving, and so our whole universe, literally, with this methodology, with this evolvement of our evolution, of our humanity, we really can be in a regenerative, quantum universe of possibility when we're actually just open to allowing this love to flow through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sharing the screen right now to show we created. Now, the way we want to help support Rachel and want folks to join us in this endeavor is we're going to utilize sacred geometry. Because again, in helping Rachel and believing that lifting up one lifts up all, is we can ask people to donate lots of money to their campaign. What we want to do is not just donate money to her campaign. We also want to build a tribe of people who want to live at the law of service, who believe in giving as a way of living their lives. And we find it to be a powerful way. So we felt that we can actually build a tribe around Rachel. If there are 33 people, if 3,000 people were to give $33, then she can reach her goal of $99,000. And that lets her pay for her medical bills. That lets her get her health and her personal situation straight. And then she can then use money to now invest in in Goddess Tears to help other people. It gives her the financial resources so she's not just running a nonprofit from lack that tries to help others. So that's what we want to do. And everyone is contributing a little bit, then one person doesn't have to contribute at all. And so we believe over a 6-month period of time, again, using 6 months as a measurement, that we can actually begin to help Rachel navigate her financial support, give her resource navigation, help her medical bills, as I said before, build out Goddess Tears, and then she can then help other people. And now it not just becomes about helping Rachel, but we're creating what I call soul-led economy that can function to help other people despite what the construct does to us when it comes to medical attention and medical care, and forcing us to have to sit here. I watched my mother over the last 2 years before she passed away, health slowly decline every time she went to the hospital because of health reasons that caused us to call the ambulance and have the ambulance take her there to the emergency room, which is and everyone who's ever been in the emergency room knows that's a horrible experience. And doing that multiple times, what was common, and you can count it like clockwork, is that when she finally came home from the hospital, and it might have been 2 months, might have been a weekend, might have been 30 days. Every single time she came home more worse off than she did before. She went in walking to the hospital, she came back on walkers. She came back from walking, she went into the hospital on walkers, came back on the cane. Went to the hospital on the cane, came back in the wheelchair. When the wheelchair, came back and couldn't walk at all. And I watched that happen to my mother, having a health crisis. My mother was a deserving soul, and not having anyone that can help us with that, navigate that. That's why I want to help Rachel and help build up Goddess Tears. And that's what we're asking folks here, where I could donate $33. And I'm asking people, and so as Jess, that you match us. Mm-hmm. Match my donation of $33. That's not a lot. That's a parking ticket. Doesn't cost you a lot. Should not require a credit card. If it does, then maybe that's not something you should be focused on listening to this podcast. You got to kind of get that in order. But if you have $33, then Rachel is the person we want to give it to. And I'm going to share with you all the link to us as we get ready to wrap up the show.
And I think the other opportunity there is with the $33 is looking at 2 other people in your realm who can contribute $33. This is an opportunity to share love, to share the story, and to expand the vision and the frequency.
Absolutely. As we have here, that's how we can then form another triad. And that's what we talk about sacred geometry. Everything is triangles and everything is triads. And that's how we operate. And so if I donate $33, Jess donates $33, and a third person joins us, now that's $100 that have come to Rachel. And it's not just the money. $100 doesn't seem like a lot. People will say, well, I could just give $100 myself. And that's great. But what we really want is the energy of people co-creating to make it happen. That's what's transformational. That's what brings forth the miracles. Not just one person donating $10,000 because they have it, another person donating $25. No, the intentionality behind each of us sharing this with other people in our network and inviting them to match us, and then watching that happen, that's what's going to begin to change lives as people see that. And then Rachel now will be an ability to help anyone else that comes with Goddess Tears in place. If you have a health crisis, Rachel can help you there as we continue to look for another deserving soul and do a similar campaign for them. This is the movement we're creating. This is the help we're asking for you all to build with us. And so we're going to include the link to her GoFundMe campaign where you can donate directly to Rachel. Again, this is not something that comes to Jess or myself at all. We're just going to share with you the link to her campaign. But we are building a larger campaign of how we can build a movement around deserving souls. And so as we get ready to the top of the hour, Jess, I want to give you any closing thoughts you want to share with folks as we get ready to wrap up.
I think I just really want to hear more of your music. I'm so excited about this frequency. I know when you're feeling the love that it just starts channeling through you, and that like these beats drop down, and the ones that have come out for Rachel and Goddess Tears, they like, I want more of that, and I want to be sharing more of that. So if there's any way that you can drop some of those frequencies in and tell people how they can access them and share them, that would be my greatest joy.
Absolutely. I would include that in the link. I'll include, when we broadcast this again out to everybody, I'll share the links to our GoFundMe page for Rachel, as well as our links where you can we created several different versions of Goddess song in different genres based off how people want to hear it and receive it. And in our next show, we will play a Goddess Tears version for you all. And we definitely ask everybody to please share this campaign with your friends. If you're feeling this, donate $33 minimum. But if you're really feeling it, form a triad. Ask 2 other people to join you and donate and give $99. That's impactful. And I guarantee you do that without any expectation from what can happen, what she's going to do with the money. That's not important. What's important is that you did it from your heart, from love energy, and watch how things in your life change. Just that $33 and the intentionality of asking people to join you. So as we wrap up our show, Jess, I want to thank you again for joining me on the show. I appreciate the love energy that you bring every single time, the presence that you bring every single time. And I look forward to walking this path with you and the infinite possibilities that this is going to provide.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for doing this, for being here with me.
Absolutely. And as we close out, we're going to close out on just our song. So until next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe 11 a.m. Pacific Time, let's continue to keep building. That's all look for ways to be more fully human in what we do.
Thank you.
Race is a lie, a ghost in the machine, a veil over the eye. Race is a lie, a script for the managed, a reason to die. It's the dementia, the spirit, it's the glitch in the code. It's the heavy, heavy baggage on a sovereign road. Dissolve the construct. Yeah, yeah. It started as a lie, a whisper in the dark, designed to keep the brothers from finding the spark. Father is a soul whose sovereign operating system was no longer whole. He didn't pull that trigger from his fully human place. The construct had the wheel, the construct